about Vue, as you understand, with my talk, A Room with a Vue. Just gonna do a quick intro about myself. My name is Magnús Dæhlen, if you say it in Norwegian, but Dæhlen is good enough. I'm also a consultant here in Oslo. I work for Iterate, which is a small consultancy firm here in Oslo, and I'm currently stationed at Cisco, where I learned about Vue, or actually got my first experience. I'm also out on parental leave, so I just snuck out to get this talk. So, what we're here to talk about? Talk about Vue.js. And I love the name because it's, oh, you can do so many puns. So I started to just caption what my Vue were when I first learned about Vue. And I thought, I'm looking into a forest, a bog. Oh, not that cool. So, but my colleagues said that, this is a good view here in Oslo. You can sit watching into a brick wall, or on the other side of the building you see this traffic machine. Not that cool. So that's not any better. So what sparked my and our pursuit for a Vue? So I work at Cisco, or a consultant at Cisco. I'm working on delivering a web whiteboard, online web whiteboard for Cisco Spark, which is this. Which is a collaboration tool, chat, video conferencing, all that. They're also selling a big pad called a Sparkboard, where you can do whiteboarding on real time, which can be, yeah, you see the pointing to that there. So anyway, our problem were that this app is integrated all over the place, Windows, desktop, iOS, Android, every tablet or you can think of, and we're making a JavaScript application. So, and unfortunately, it's run through a web views or iframes, not probably the best way today. So we only delivered the online or the web whiteboard. We didn't actually do the integration and stuff. So we needed a way to test real-time messaging between this whiteboard app and the interaction between them. So we needed to make our own client. Or at least our own client, not a fake one, a real client. So why did we choose Vue to do that? And the answer is more like, why not? This started as a pretty low-risk application, and it's also today in production in Cisco, but only for developers and testers internally to actually see how the web whiteboard works. And first, I thought, let's just do it with React. I have a lot of previous experience with React. I'm very lazy. I'm fear of the unknown and all that. So I suggested we just do it with React. We do it fast, quickly. But my colleague, which privacy issues couldn't get a picture of, suggested we live a little. Expand our JS minds. So he heard about Vue, which was supposed to be lightweight, quick, and easy to work with. So OK, I agreed. Let's try it. So quickly I scanned the web to see if this lightweight proposal was correct. And I found a lot of benchmarks, especially this one from Stefan Kraus, where actually this one's from January, a new one after we started working with Vue. But Vue here is doing quite well on different types of benchmarks, inserting, deletion, alterations of DOM rows, in both keyed and non-keyed tests. But React and Angular also are pretty quick here as well. But I didn't add in the slide there, but the memory allocation for Angular and React is quite much bigger than Vue. So that's the main goodness for Vue at the moment, or at least from the January tests. So also another thing, quick stats, is that Angular and React are quite bigger than Vue, Angular in particular, which is pretty important when you're trying to keep your application small. And for our part, we want to keep our application small, so the load time on mobile and stuff like that would be less big. But maybe it's not, you don't want to compare them to Angular and React, since they're seen as much bigger or like stable frameworks now. Maybe we should compare them to Preact and Inferno, which are smaller, lightweight frameworks. And they do well in that test as well. We can see that Vue is faring quite well against both Preact and Inferno. And the same with Preact and Inferno, they also allocate a lot less memory on your browser, which is something, it's a good thing. But they have their drawbacks, but someone will talk about them someday. Anyway, so back to our first day. Again, I was lazy, a little reluctant. I was whining to my colleague to start, do I have to go to the README, learning Vue? So I stumbled in to the README, okay, cool. We went to the web page, found out pretty quickly that their main focus was the Vue layer. It's the core functionality, just produce Vue. No routing, no store, no nothing, just Vue, the core functionality. I like it. I like that thing has one purpose. So I started reading the README, and this is mostly how I see the README. I tend to get bored. So I see the keywords, and I just saw an example. OK, I just got to copy-paste it and see if it works. Even if it said, do not do this in the caption on both, I would still just copy-paste it and try it out. And this is the way how I learned about that there are two ways to do component creation. I will focus on one of them, but the cool thing is the one called they call single file component, which is you can add with their own file type .vue. But and this is it. This is the single file component. I just got to say that Vue also has the same way as React with JSX. You can do it with plain JavaScript functions, same as you can skip to using JSX in React. But I like using JSX in React, and I also like using the single file component. And I fell in love with this one. You can see it's 3 parts here. It's a template part, a script part, and a style part. And the template part is it's a mustache handlebar syntax. You can choose what you want to use there, but in my case, I use that. And the script part is just, in this case, ES5 JavaScript. And the style part is just plain CSS. But to use this, you need to have a pre-processing, or you have to compile it with Webpack, Grunt, Gulp, whatever you want to use. And here you can plug and play. You can plug and play if you want to use SAS or less in the style, or if you wanted to use ES6, ES7, maybe ES8 in that case. And in template, you can use whatever kind of handlebar floats your boat. So this is mostly how the components are look in Vue if you go for the single file component way. And the cool thing here, especially with the style part there, you can see scoped, which will make all the styling for this component scoped to that component. And they do that by adding in the pre-processing part, adding the ID of the component. Like in React and other frameworks, each component templates or divs or paragraphs get an ID linked to that component. And that get linked into the CSS. So anyway, now we got our first super easy component. So let's just plug it into the DOM, because the .vue file doesn't do anything. You can't just import a .vue file into the browser and it will run. So this is how much code you need to get it in. It looks pretty similar to React DOM.render. You just need an element, and you need to pass the Vue component into the render function. You can do it with functions. If you skip the .vue file, you just send in the function here with the same. Anyway, I know this is kind of boring, but I just got to plug through a little bit of README stuff just so you get the basics. And we know it's a JS conference, so we're mostly intrigued about the script part of the single file component. So that takes me over to the Vue Data Model. And in the Vue Data Model, we have these 5 names. And it's the first time when I took a look at this, I was, okay, let's try to deduce what they mean without reading any documentation or going through them. Like data, some kind of data, I think, probably. Props, okay, I've worked with React, so I'm biased. I think it's some properties, probably from a parent component or something. Computed, yeah, probably computed values or some sort. Methods, okay, I think it's the same as functions. People have a different opinion, but I think it's something to do with functions or something. And watch, I was thinking, okay, I can add watchers or something to maybe DOM elements or something. So the name's quite easy. So I started on data. Okay, data, it's data. It's equal to get initial state for React. It's the initial state with basic data values, so like strings or ints or data values that are clear on the component it's created. And it gives us easy data binding into our template. As we see here, we can bind the greeting into the paragraph here with the syntax. So pretty straightforward. It's the state of the component. So props. Okay, since I'm biased, I kind of knew what it was before I started. But it's the properties. It's properties you get from the parent component. And in Vue, you have to declare which properties comes into the component. So here we declare an ID over here. And we can use it in the same way in our template or in our script part. We'll get to that in the same way as a regular state or data. And I know I think it was with React E6 or SM, the prop types. In React now, you want to actually define your prop types. We didn't have always do that. But in Vue, they added that you have to declare them, unless the component won't know about the ID if you don't declare it. So we're going to compute it. OK, so we might think it's some kind of computer values. And that's correct. It's pretty much the same as the data object. The difference is that the data is the initial state, but computed is the mutating state. So computed are just an object of functions. So when we try to acquire the computer value here, it will run the function, and unless it happens it's a parameter change, or there's no parameter here, or any data value inside. If we were looking at the component value, if we would look at the greeting, it will rerun. So it's caching the function here. So it will re-render when the results are ready here, and not rerun it unless it sees a difference. So for our case, we listen to store values in our applications. So when we got new stuff into our store, it will re-render, and that will get to it. OK, and then methods. Maybe that's not correct to say that's exactly the same as functions, but anyway, it's class functions in React. It's the functions you want to build your component on. So if you want to use the event system, we can add all our functions in the methods part, and we can you see we can do it with the click handler here, and it will run. And this is how we also get in touch with values from the state, like this greeting, this of the year. So anyway, we're almost done with the boring, or the cool data model. So we're down to watch, and it's a little unclear. The first time I read about it on the README, it said this is not you shouldn't be using this. Okay, I shouldn't be using this. Okay, so why do we have it? So it's like a fallback they have added if you can't solve your problem with computer values or in the functions or the methods object. So you can hook watchers. You can add watchers here to watch on data value changes inside a component. Like if the greeting, if a WebRebel greeting is changing, and we want to do an async call to a backend, or we want to do some expensive stuff, we can have a watcher to fire off when that happens, and the component will just keep on showing like it was before. So, but they say it's not recommended. Maybe it will not be there in the future, but. For now, you have to actually have watchers for some rare edge cases. So let's just see here. What's the difference or the similarities of React and Angular, which is, I would say the most biggest in the market nowadays. We've seen a lot of similarities to React. The data model is pretty much the same with the state and props. It's Angular, we haven't seen that much, but you saw a little bit of the template data binding. I'm not going to go into it because it's the same as Angular directives or Vue directives. If you want to do an if or a for loop inside a template, it's very much similar to how we did it in Angular. And that's a long list of directives. So anyway, that's the most similar part there. Also, Vue has two-way data binding. And a lot of people might think that that's not scalable, and that's not that great. That's why Angular didn't win. Angular 1 didn't win over React, maybe. But hopefully, I'm thinking, I haven't actually checked the source code, but I'm hoping that they have fixed a better way to do the two-way data binding, that they actually are managing to remove heavy two-way data binding in the DOM and the JS. when components is destroyed or up and down, stuff like that. But we'll see. I haven't tested Vue in a large-scale application, so if anyone have, that's cool to hear. Anyway, so what it comes down to what I think is the Vue factor. And I'll get to it, but first, also quickly, just take a look at the life cycle of Vue. Vue has the same kind of life cycle as React. A lot more, actually. The life cycle is a little bigger, or more. You can jump into different steps. And you see the names here on different sides. And the one thing that strikes me is that the Vue names are simple. Just simplicity. It's like mounted before updated, destroyed. And you could say that updated pretty much the same. You can read the same from component did update. But that's what I think is the main key part of Vue, is that they go for simplicity. They're trying to just understand or deduce what things mean without reading the documentation. And the thing I hate the most is when I get stuck on things that doesn't solve or I get stuck on reading stuff I don't understand and actually not solving the problem I'm trying to do with my application. So this is what I really call the Vue factor. They go for simplicity all the way in naming and everything. And also, this won't name clash. If you want a function called updated, you can add it in the methods part. It will not clash with the lifecycle function. One drawback that a colleague of mine actually pointed out to me is that when you search for Vue updated, you will get probably some dude trying to update his something, and probably not get the lifecycle. And component did update will actually give you a more direct answer online. So, might be a drawback. So anyway, let's just get down to our application. I just got to say, this is an application made for our developers and testers. So I call it the VueX. This is our project. And we learned quickly that when you want to work with Vue, it's the same as working with React. You got to break up your UI in components. You want to break it down as small as possible. And with a single file component structure, you're kind of forced to it, since you're actually adding the template and the styling inside. So it really learned me to appreciate small components. So anyway, this is the UI. Here we have our whiteboard there. We actually have a terminal view, since we hate having a lot of buttons. We just want to use our terminal in the browser. And we got a log field there, getting logs, and a command center, just some quick buttons. So the first week, after the first week, it looked like this, pretty much the same as it did now, actually, just a lot of stuff behind we fixed. So, but our Vue application actually did the interaction between the whiteboards and did all the magic. And we didn't. And in real life, it's a lot more async than the application actually did before. So we actually need to take a look at how we could fix this asynchronous, and we'll get to it by. But first, I'm going to show you just quickly how we interacted with the application if it runs. Oh, it runs. So this is actually a drawing contest. This guy didn't win. So quickly, get there. Ooh. So here we do interactions with the whiteboard via our terminal by loading a fully functioning whiteboard. So anyway, we wanted to fake this asynchronous to get it a little more inconsistent. It's weird to say, but we wanted our whiteboard to talk to each other without us just intercepting all the messages and dictating what they wanted to do. So we turned to service workers, and service workers quickly is a script running in the browsers on their own thread. Will not clog the UI, stuff like that. As we can see in this example, if it doesn't run here. Is that we have one service worker actually we can tell we have one service worker sitting in the Vue layer, and a lot of service workers just talking to each other. And we get the logs here from one of the service workers. And it's not that good. Anyway, so they really solved the problem where the async, we wanted the async real time to actually show us what kind of errors we had in our application. So, yeah, that is good. It's good. But the problem is that when we get all these log messages with via the service worker, we could just show them and not. You could backtrack the DOM elements or maybe the state of the component. But if something happens, we would love to have a store. Like every app now has a store of some sort to cache data. And we all know Redux and a lot of other types of store. The Flux structure has taken over store management in the web applications nowadays. So we thought about actually trying, hey, let's use Redux here. Let's plug and play Redux. But again, my colleague said to me, come on, let's just, we've done this a lot of times. Let's try something else. So I learned about VueX, which is made by Vue, pretty much the same structure and the mindset as Redux. But one big difference is that VueX is mutating the state. It's not immutable. And that's in line with their theory of being lightweight and quick, because we all know immutable is a little bigger and often a little slower, but you got a little more control over your state. So we tried VueX, and it's really plug and play with Vue. Good compatibility. You just have to make your action creators, actions, and mutations, not reducers, for yourself in the store, and you just chuck it into the main Vue component, and it will propagate down to all their child components. So you can just acquire it inside the component. You can listen to it. In our computed values, we had it there, so that you saw the log messages coming in, that it would re-render this component each time a new log message came into the store. So yeah, you can learn about how this store is on your own. It's quite easy. So anyway, I'm getting to the end. Don't got that much time left. So what's cool about Vue? It's simple. I say it's kindergarten easy. They go for simplicity. It's quick and lightweight. We could probably make our application with React, and it wouldn't need the quickness in our application. But I know a lot of people are trying to get web pages to be faster on mobile and other stuff. So it might be a contender there. It's fun to actually try something else than we all know some of us know the React, they call it the React class API, where you do the render function and you do the JSX and the way React do. And when I took a quick look over the frameworks that were in the earlier benchmark, they all do the same way. They do the rendering, they do the same way as React, they do a class, and they do the render function. But Vue is the only, is one of the few ones that's actually trying to do something else with the file structure, with the single file component, which I think is quite cool, since it's forced me to keeping my components small and quite functional. So I think that's at least sparked some interest for Vue, but yeah, you can read more on the README. That's it. Thank you.
To the couch.
Ooh.
I'm supposed to sit further away so our mics
Okay,
don't
sorry,
mess
it's not
up.
right. It's not right, I know.
It's not that I don't like you. We sat next to each other at the speaker dinner, so I got to know all about the cabins that people in Norway
Norwegian
have.
cabins, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. That was a great talk. Thank you so much for that. So I haven't used Vue. I've heard a lot about it because no matter what, it seems like there's always something that you have to hear about a lot that you don't use. That's like how JavaScript works. It's all right. And that thing rotates, but Vue is it right now for me. The question I still have is, I feel like a lot of the frameworks are trying to answer a pain point or a problem. Like if you use Angular 1, you might have frustration with two-way data binding and feel like, oh, it's hard to know where things talk to each other and what causes data to change. I'll use React, and it has one-way data binding. Or like, I built this giant React app. I had to invent my own framework because I have to plug all these pieces together. I wish I had more structure. I'll try out Ember. What would you say like the pain is that Vue is trying to solve? You mentioned the small size and the simplicity. Is it just like, I feel like the frameworks I'm using are too big, too complex, so I'll try something simpler? Is that kind of the pain it's trying to address?
A lot of at least React and Angular might have been complex now, but they're quite easy to understand. But Vue is also, my pain, for personal experience, is actually using a lot of time with all these frameworks and all this new stuff popping up all the time. And the one thing that I think that's what I tried to do is to make this process of actually trying something new so fast and easy. And they also made it quick and lightweight to actually sell it to all developers trying to make apps faster and stuff. But it's the simplicity, actually making my life, or as a developer, much easier, faster. I get feeling productive much faster. And that's my experience. That's my pain point is the coolest thing with Vue.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you find that it changes the way you write non-Vue code? Are there things that you take from Vue that you apply to the other stuff that you do?
I always tried when I worked with React to keep my components small, but that's the most important thing I got from it. Is to keep my components as small as possible and to get it readable for other people. Trying to structure my UI in a way so that when the next guy comes, it shouldn't be staring at the code for 2 weeks before understanding what the hell it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I learned the most. We're also working a lot with getting my project to be a little smaller in size, actually cutting pieces out of my package.json. And with Vue, I got so little, my size is so small that it helped me on the way. So it's also like a secondary point.
Yeah, I think I've heard that about some of the new kind of like micro frameworks, that a phrase I've heard them say is your app code should be most of your code, not your framework code. And it seems like Vue is definitely aiming at that. Is your company going to use Vue on more projects? Do you feel like it's been a success?
Yeah, I think so. I will really recommend using it. Again, I haven't tried it on a big scale application, so I know that two-way data binding have killed a lot of Angular 1 apps, and hopefully we'll not do it the same with Vue, but again, I will try it at a medium size, not that much, or small to medium size application. So
like a to-do list or something?
No, not a to-do list. At least a little more traffic than that, but I haven't tried it on a large scale like a Facebook app or like a Twitter or something. I haven't tried it at that large a scale. So if someone has, I would really like to know how it fares.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your talk. It was great.
Thank you.